Good morning. This is again the Theotek podcast. We're coming to you live from Kentucky, New Jersey, North Carolina all at once, and pretty soon from another part of North Carolina. But we're excited to have Wes back. He's been away on hiatus. Of course, as most of you know, he's part of the CIA, and so he's out keeping America safe from the terrorists. Who'd you kill this time, Wes?
No, no. I can't. I could tell you, but then I would have to kill our audience.
That's killing me. No, he's been away on a vacation, much needed one, I suppose.
Yes.
All right. Well, Rick, we're glad you're here with us again here in wonderful Louisville area of Kentucky, my old stomping grounds.
This is the first time I've actually been doing this from my house in a long time. Normally, if I'm not out of town, I'm in Louisville. I actually live out in the county over in Simpsonville, but if I'm in Louisville, I'm sitting outside of a Starbucks or something like that because I'm just usually not at home. So it's nice to be sitting here in the nice cool kitchen.
Yeah, well, as you can see, I'm back in the dungeon, the man cave, with all my junk behind me on the shelves and with the overhead light that washes me out, which is probably a good thing. You don't have to look at my ugly face. But we're looking forward to Antoine Wright joining us very soon. Wes is the technology director for the American Baptist Church of North Carolina, New Jersey. I don't know what I'm thinking about. And Rick, of course, works with Olive Tree.
No.
With Accordance Bible software. And LaRosa, who sometimes joins us, is with Olive Tree.
I'm sorry, the CIA Mind Probe has been affecting
with Mobile Ministry Magazine, and hopefully he will be with us. Well, something came out this week that was kind of interesting. Did either of you install and run Windows 10 on your computers this week?
I have no Windows machines in my house, so I cannot do that. Eventually, I'll probably get like Parallels or something to try it out on my son's iMac. But I got nothing that can actually do it, so I'll leave you guys to talk about this. Very impressed with it from what I've played with it a little bit, and it is a nice operating system.
Okay.
Yeah, and I installed it on both the Acer R7, where I'm actually using that for the Google Hangouts today, and then I also installed it on my Surface 3.
So first, just let's talk about why Windows 10. I mean, that seems a little ridiculous since most new computers before this week ran Windows 8 or 8.1. Why in the world do you think that they went to Windows 10?
It's all marketing. It's all marketing, and Windows 8 had just not gone over, and so this was a way to distance themselves from it, I believe, to go straight to 10.
Yeah, it seems like we want to get as far away from that as possible, and so they not only quickly jumped to get it out the door, they also made it possible so that anyone and everyone can install it easily, and they're giving it away for free, and then they skipped a whole version number so that, as if that terrible 8 that we used to have, that's so long ago, that's 2 versions ago.
But the numbering that they've given to Windows has never made sense anyway. I mean, if you really went back and counted all the versions, the significant versions that have been out, it's never made sense. I don't know what number it should actually be on.
You're right. Yeah, it's my son put up a thing. He said that it should be like Windows 14, I think, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, that would make sense.
What it was, but so let's get into the guts of it. Rick, you've got it installed. I'm actually running it as well on this Lenovo TS430, I think it is, a notebook that I'm testing and reviewing. I bought, but didn't buy. I traded my Surface 3 for an older version of this, and I liked it so much that I called up Lenovo and said, "Hey, can I check out a newer version so I can write a review of it?" And that's what I'm playing with right now. And gave my son the one I traded for. But I'm running it on this. No, actually, I'm not. I'm running Windows 8. I just realized I can't update it because it's not mine. So anyway, so you've got it. Why don't you, if you don't mind, go ahead and share your screen, And while you're setting it up like that, we'll just talk a little bit about what the major changes are. First of all, I think the first significant difference that you'll see if you have been running Windows 8 and you go to Windows 10, I think one of the biggest changes, aside from just the general user interface, is the start screen or the start button, depending on your device. They sort of have a hybrid start screen that looks a lot like Windows 8's start screen, but it doesn't fill the whole screen like Windows 8 did. Instead, it's a little bit like Windows 7 and earlier, the start menu, that only popped up, in the bottom left corner of your screen. So show us that, if you will.
Okay, can you see my screen here?
Yeah. We can.
Okay, so the start button had come back in 8.1 or in one of the builds of 8.1, but it just took you to the start screen. So now the start menu is back, and this has not only menu items here, and of course you can go to all apps, and this is very much like if you've ever seen the all apps on a Windows phone. It's very similar to that. And you can access them there, but you also have the live tiles. And what it did was it just converted my start screen from Windows 8.1 over to Windows 10 and put them in here. And if I understand it correctly, I'm going to see if I can do this. I haven't done this before, but I saw it last night. Yeah, I'm trying this with my mouse. I was going to see if I could drag out. Well, and it's not letting me. So but I saw someone do that on. It may be locked somewhere. I saw someone do that in a video. But that's for the people who hated the start screen, that completely skipped out on Windows 8 and really stuck with Windows 7. This might be a good appeasement to this. And truthfully, I don't think that I would use any of this stuff here. And so I've already seen some stuff about removing the live tiles from that. I don't know that I would actually need them here. One thing that I was a little bit worried about in going to this was how they would change the tablets. I'm using an Acer R7 here, which is a touch screen, and I've got the Surface 3. I never really had a real problem with Windows 8.0 or 1 because I had touch screens. But I understand if you didn't have a touch screen, it could be problematic. And so I wondered a little bit, what's it going to be like to slide in from the sides? Well, that's still here. The charms are gone, but you have a number of greater controls over here. And then if you slide in from the left, it has a kind of a task switcher, which is a little bit more. It's better than the. I think it's better than the one that was in 8.1, and of course you've got one of the features of Windows 10 is that you see this tablet mode that's here in these. I don't know what they're calling these utilities here, but there's a tablet mode. And so if you switch to tablet, it will switch automatically from tablet mode if you go to like if you pull your Surface 3 off of the keyboard or something like that, and then you're back to this old screen. Now this is not the way I'd set my old one up, so it's interesting how they did that. But it's certainly, and there I can get access to all of the files. But I think that would be a good compromise. This is really probably the way that they should have done it with Windows 8. And I think that they've really worked hard at working with or listening to customers, I should say. And I'm going to switch that. I want to switch that back. I do have a couple of complaints, but maybe I'll hold off on those for a second and let you guys comment or say something.
What's the memory drain with all the live tiles going?
I have no idea.
I haven't noticed a single.
You haven't noticed anything for it? It's just kind of smart. It's probably Smart handles it, so if they're not actually up, it's not draining resources.
Yeah, again, I've turned them off and didn't notice an improvement, and turned them on and didn't notice a degradation.
Cool.
So I don't think it's an issue even. I think the thing about them is a lot of what's on that look at a glance, that little section there that you're seeing on your screen, Rick, is it's things like calendar and your mail, and if you set that up, Flipboard is in there. If you set that up, that's all interesting. If you if you make it so that it goes widescreen, what Windows does is anytime you install an app from the Windows Store or software on your computer, if you right-click it in that leftmost column that shows all your programs and say pin to the start menu, then it automatically puts it at that rightmost section of the start menu or start screen if you're in tablet mode. The biggest thing about the tablet mode that I've found, and I'm struggling with, I think it might be a bug, is sometimes the keyboard, on the Surface Pro 3, you can bend that keyboard back and, you're holding the keys on the back of the thing, which isn't ideal or perfect. But if you've got your keyboard connected on your Surface Pro 3 and you are still wanting to use it as a tablet, in the old way, you'd tap on a insertion box, and you'd see the keyboard on the screen that would pop up, and you'd start typing. Right now, what I'm noticing, and maybe you're not, Rick, and that is that the issue is the on-screen keyboard does not automatically pop up when I tap on an insertion box, which is problematic for me because I often just quickly whip that cover back on the back of the tablet, and so it can be a little bit annoying to have it there.
Well, that's always been an issue for me. That was even an issue in 8.1, that the on-screen keyboard sometimes works, and then sometimes when I'm using the regular keyboard, if I happen to touch the screen, the on-screen keyboard will come up when I don't want it.
Well, but here's the thing I was going to say, and I was taking too long to get there, and that is that in regular mode, there's always a keyboard button down in the corner.
Oh, yeah.
In tablet mode, there is no keyboard button. You can't get the keyboard up. So if you're in tablet mode, you have to slide in to open up the Action Center, change it from tablet mode to the regular mode, and then tap the keyboard in order to get the keyboard to pop up. So it's clearly a bug or an oversight. I'm not sure which. I haven't had time to go in and look at the Windows Feedback app, which there is a Windows Feedback app this time, which is kind of nice, and people vote up or down whether something's a real issue or not, and then hopefully Microsoft takes a look at that and takes that into consideration when fixing bugs. They've been pretty responsive in the process.
From what I understand, the Windows tablet features were added late in the preview builds too, and so that aspect of Windows 10 may not be as mature as the rest of it.
But the funny thing is, I don't remember it being a problem in the previous betas. It's like it got reintroduced in the final version.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because I don't remember having an issue with it, because I've been running Windows 10 on my Surface Pro 3, not constantly, but on and off since November. I'll run it for about a month and then get tired of the stuff and go back. And then after about a month, a friend of mine who's been running it constantly says, "Oh, you should try the new one. It's much better." Well, his idea of much better and mine are very different. And so I'll put it on there, and then, oh, man, this is not working the way I had hoped. And so I'll take it off again. But I've been running it constantly since probably early May without any real significant issues. And so there were a few, but a lot of those got fixed in the most recent beta version that then became the gold master that they shipped. But I think one of my complaints, let's go ahead and go to that, Rick, is you said you liked and you thought this is the way they should have done the start screen. I do like it better, but that list of all your apps is just too small if you're tapping.
Yeah, and especially on a smaller screen.
Yeah. If you've got like an 8-inch, I've not tried it on an 8-inch. That would be annoying. Again, this is this age-old problem of Windows on a tablet. So many of the controls are still just too tiny to make it efficient. Now, you're sort of able to get to them, but it just doesn't feel good, and you're always nervous because it feels like I'm tapping 3 buttons at once. To be honest with you, it does seem to get the right one 99% of the time.
Can you enlarge it at all?
Make it bigger. What's that?
Can you enlarge it at all? Is there anything in preferences to increase
yes,
that?
But if you do that, it makes everything else look terrible, and so it's not worth it for the few times that you need it.
Gotcha.
And so it's still a little bit. I don't know. Windows 10 is a big improvement, in my opinion, on Windows 8, but it's still not really good. Running a Windows 10 tablet still doesn't feel tablet-y. It feels like this is a computer that they're forcing onto a tablet.
Yeah.
Whereas, you pull out an iPad or say even an Android tablet. I like Android tablets, but they're still just not as good as iPads. Those feel like, hey, we've designed this for tablets.
Right. Both of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not trying to force you into computer on your tablet. This is a tablet, And I suppose if you went the other way and tried to run iOS on a computer, or I have tried to run Android on a computer, and it's not a good experience.
But part of that was with Windows 8.0, the modern UI. Well, it was first Metro, then it was modern UI, and I guess they're called the Universal apps now. All of those were designed to be the tablet interface apps so that you could go back and forth, and it seemed like a good idea. I think the big problem is they didn't have large third-party support. You didn't have the apps that you're using. I mean, even Microsoft itself, my goodness.
They didn't have first-party support for it.
Yeah. You didn't have the mobile Office apps until this week. And you never had those for version 8, and I think that really hurt them, because if you wanted to use Microsoft Word, you're going to have to open up the desktop version, and the touch points were too small, and so they still have to get people to create these I guess again they're calling them universal apps now that are touch centric. They have to get people to buy into that in order for the Windows tablet experience to be really good. Now the touchscreen experience is one thing, but if you really want to make it as a tablet, it still has a lot of room for improvement.
Yeah, I agree. They've got room for 10.1.
Yeah.
Which Apple's made a living on holding back features and getting everybody to upgrade and get all excited about their upgrades. So, I think that's maybe Microsoft's learning something from them. Hey, don't give it all away,
Well, now they're all giving it away for free, so who cares?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Antoine has joined us. Antoine, do you have any thoughts? We're talking Windows 10 and the upgrade. Do you have any thoughts? Have you had a chance to even run it yet?
No, I don't have any machines that I would run it on. For the most part, Windows and I have had a really cool and successful divorce, unless it's imposed on me. Let me say it from this perspective, because that probably did sound kind of Antoine's from the future again. I have absolutely no preference when it comes to operating systems. There's nothing that a specific operating system does that is so unique that it's necessary. At the same time, the services that I use, whether it's Office or Dropbox or whatever, Evernote or whatever it is, those services work seamlessly across all of the platforms that are necessary. So, at least in my world, trainer, consultant, guy who's got to go into different ministries and organizations and teach them how to do their stuff better. Windows doesn't matter. What matters are the applications on top of it. And at least right now, the only thing about Windows that has mattered for my clients is Office 13 and Office 365. And because those are independent from Windows, I haven't had that kind of opportunity to play with Windows 10 just yet.
Yeah, I think we're in a world now where Mac versus Windows, except for, and I don't know, maybe the two of you, Wes and Rick, would be included in this. There are Mac people who, no matter what Windows does, they're never going to switch. They're never going to like it. They're never going to be happy with it. I doubt that you guys would say that, but are you that passionate about Mac that it would take a lot for Windows to switch over? There are people like that out there, and so nothing Windows does. But just from someone like me and Antoine, I think you and I are probably pretty close on this. The operating system is not as important to me. The apps and the hardware are really what I'm interested in, and I think that both you can get great on both.
Yeah, I agree. You can get great on both. I run both. Yeah, I need to for work, and because I'm interested too. I still prefer Mac over Windows, and it's not the discussion for today's show. I mean, we could get really geeky and nerdy. I could show you things about the UI that I think are that for at least for me, I think that they are better. But I'm not like I was 10 years ago, where I told people to. I told people to only use Mac or something like that. I'm way beyond trying to hang up this phone call that's coming in. I'm trying to do it from my watch. Uh, the I'm not that kind of passionate anymore. I'm more along the lines of use whatever you want, and kind of like what Antoine was saying. Learn how to use that well. I don't get into the platform wars, but I do know what I prefer. And I know what works best for me. Kevin, were you going to talk any more about some of the things that are complaints for us in Windows 10?
Well, let's first give Wes. Did you want to react to what I said there?
Oh, I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
mean, I'm pretty much the same way as Rick. If in my house, I have all Mac products, and that's because I'm supporting it, and it's what I prefer, and I find it a much more stable environment for the types of stuff that we're doing. I'm not dealing with the same types of problems I had when we were running all sorts of things. But see, I'm kind of like Antoine. I divorced from Windows. I went to Linux and ran that for years, and then I went over to Mac because I needed to do some video editing and things like that. And I just felt it was a better experience for me. But you want to run it. I mean, I'm considering getting a Surface for my son, and I've recommended that for other people. But I know what I prefer. It would be hard to get me back on Windows, and we've talked about this before. I like the Unix idea that everything's a file, and if I want to change a configuration, I can go and see what the configuration is without mucking through a database. And that's kind of like why I prefer it. But that's a geeky reason more than anything else. It's not Mac zealotry. It's just this is what I prefer because it's what I've kind of gotten used to. And I'm done.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and move into that complaint issue. And it sounds like maybe you've got some for us, Rick.
Well, the big one for me was, which a lot of people had talked about even during the preview builds, is the changes that they made to OneDrive. And I use OneDrive quite a bit. I use it for work-related things, and I have something like 34 gigabytes of data in OneDrive, and it's been easy to move files back and forth with my between my Mac and between my Windows machines, and actually it's not an issue for this R7 because I've got 2 drives in this machine, and I've got plenty of room here. But it is an issue on the Surface 3, and what they've done is they've taken out placeholders. And in the past you could see all of your files that were in OneDrive even if they weren't actually on the machine. And now that they've taken out those placeholders, you have to determine which folders will sync, and it really just makes OneDrive useless for me on the Surface 3, and I think it's going to make it useless for anyone who has a lot of files in it in OneDrive, and also has a smaller hard drive, and to me that's a real frustration without any true workaround other than just loading up the web-based interface for OneDrive if I'm on those machines, and telling it to upload or telling it to download. And I will say this, the Microsoft Office will open up Office files from OneDrive pretty seamlessly. It'll download them and upload them even if you don't have the directories represented on there. But those are just Office files, and I have a lot more than Office files in my OneDrive folders.
I have my conspiratorial look at it, and then I've got my regular, here's maybe what's really going on here. My conspiratorial look at it is, they gave us this unlimited storage if you're an Office 365 user, and so people are starting to load all kinds of stuff other than Office files on it. My conspiratorial look at it is maybe they don't really want us to load much on there, because they don't really want us to do that, but they want to be able to say, we give you unlimited, whereas Google only gives you, however much, and Apple gives you however much free. We give it to you. If you subscribe to ours, it's unlimited. And so that's one way to sort of, in a passive-aggressive way, not, let you do it, but not really let you do it.
It's Comcast version of unlimited internet.
Yeah, exactly. So that might be it. Or it just might be that there was some person that left out some code or messed something up, and they've got other priorities, and they're going to add it back. Because if you go into that Windows, the feedback app on a Windows computer, I don't even know if that's on there unless you've been running the beta. Now that I think about it, but if you go in there, that is always the top vote getter is fix OneDrive, make it like it was.
Yeah, I don't think it's conspiratorial.
No, they said it's
as we're going
coming.
through, the way that I was looking at it was, it's a removable storage, and they must have found some kind of a glitch in however the sync between like removable storage and OneDrive worked. And rather than deal with the headache of like an author going, I just lost my 700-page book, and Microsoft sucks, they just left that out for now.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's going to come back.
That doesn't answer the biggest thing, and that is that the placeholders are basically just links to your file, and once you try to open it, that's when it downloads it. It leaves it. So basically, you open up your File Explorer and you go into your OneDrive folder, and if you said only sync my documents folder, but then you've got a movies folder that you didn't tell it to sync.
Okay.
It used to be you could open that movies folder, even though it's not really there.
And you see the place, same way like the Dropbox app.
Yeah, and you'd see all the movies, even though they're not really there. You'd click on one, and then it would download it.
Gotcha. And it won't do that anymore?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's just broken.
The folder is just right there.
One thing that I heard was that people were that confused too many people. They'd be on an airplane or whatever, and they'd go to download a file, and they'd say, "Where's my file that I wanted to work on?" But to me, that's an education issue. You don't take the feature away. You just show people how to use it a little bit better.
But from a huge corporate tech support side, I bet that's exactly it. Is that it confused people, and we just don't want to be bothered with trying to educate them how it works, so we'll just take it away. And so instead what they did is they messed up all their most passionate customers who know everything about it and how it works.
That's the way every file app like that on iOS has worked for since day one.
Yeah, but iOS, we're not, comparing Windows to iOS is not really a fair comparison. If that's the way it worked on Mac, I would say, yeah, that's fine. But
here's my question about my interest with OS X, which is what LaRosa had just put out on his Twitter feed yesterday about the way that Windows 10 handles updates. And I think it's a shame, because I think it was a brilliant thing to do, and then Microsoft just kind of, they're the bull in the china shop coming through. For folks who have never heard of it, there's a thing called torrent or BitTorrent, and we talked about it here, BitTorrent Sync, on the show a couple times. And it was a way of distributing large files by distributing the bandwidth between a whole bunch of different nodes. And for Linux would distribute their distributions like that for years back when people had slower broadband. And
Wes, can I interrupt you for just
go ahead.
Let's explain this. There are people, I'm sure, listening to this that don't have a clue. I know most of our audience probably would.
Right.
Let's explain, what do you mean by that, distributed nodes, and what's all that?
Well, it's the idea of, if you download the file, the bits that you have on your computer, even as you're continuing to download it, you can re-upload it to someone else who's downloading the same file. So it's not coming from one computer; it's coming from many computers, and it's all traveling to the same spot.
Right.
But Windows 10 apparently has done this with their updates that are built in, which, from a Microsoft standpoint, is brilliant, because it's much less overhead for them to distribute updates out to all these Windows 10 computers especially when a critical update comes out. But the problem is that they've turned this on by default, so that when you download an update, you are sharing your bandwidth without being notified that you're sharing your bandwidth. In BitTorrent, you know that you're doing this, so you're just fine doing that. And I mean, I can't imagine like what Starbucks is going to do, or all these little independent mom and pop coffee
no,
come through.
Wes,
what?
You're not sharing your you're sharing the file, but the serving computer And this is the classic and usual BitTorrent is not responsible.
I'm sure that was really
I'm
important.
not hearing anything he's saying.
No, I'm not hearing it. The more profound it is, the less you can hear it.
So
there is a way to turn this off. And if
I like that you can. I think it's really cool. I just think that the default was kind of rough.
Let's tell people how to turn it off if they're out there freaking out over this and they want to get rid of it. It's simple. You go into the Windows Update feature. So you slide in from the side of your screen and tap on All Settings, and then bring up the Update and Recovery section. And when you do that, and I don't have it in front of me, so Rick, maybe you can look for it if you see it, maybe even share it. But there's a Windows Update, something like an Advanced Options, and choose how updates are installed, and then choose how updates are delivered. I'm reading a website. And underneath that, there's an update from more than one place.
Here, let me share my screen here.
And if you do all of that, if you just search for Windows 10 uses your bandwidth to distribute updates on Lifehacker, you'll find this article that I'm reading. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know if Gotta Be Mobile has one of these. I bet we do, but my friend Travis Pope, who's a very plugged-in Windows guy. If you want someone who knows Windows and knows Microsoft people, he's got a lot of connections over there. He hobnobs with the Mary Foleys of the world. He's really into this. He knows this stuff, and he writes about all this. So if you want to go to gottobemobile.com, and I know there was an article that I didn't read, unfortunately. I didn't have time, about fixing some of the annoyances in Windows 10, and I bet this is one of those.
Man, that step guide sounded like putting on a 10-step guide to putting on socks.
Yeah, well,
but you got to do it. You can complain about it all you want, but you still got to do it if you don't want to be involved in this. And some people won't. So
if you can see my screen, is this what you're talking about, Kevin?
No, I don't see your screen. I see you.
You got to do the screen sharing part, Rick.
I thought I did. Hold on. Let's see. I just didn't hit the share button.
Mm.
Now we see me, but it's your screen with me.
Okay, so is this what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you get there?
Okay, so I went into settings, which that's another complaint that we've got settings in two different places, but I can come back to that. And then I went to update and security, and then I did advanced options, and down here underneath, choose how updates are delivered. That's what got me there.
Yep, and you've got it turned on, by the way.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And
I love the idea of saying leave it PCs on my local network, because that way, if you have 5 different computers running Windows 10 and you're all downloading it, you're basically all distributing how you're getting it. So you get it faster, and you can.
Well, again, this is a case where Microsoft is doing what's in their best interest, not in our best interest.
Correct.
Right.
It might be both. I mean, they might be saying, "Hey, look, BitTorrent downloads faster. Let's let them use BitTorrent."
Yeah. There's absolute benefit.
Downloading work faster, but they should have made it clear from somewhere at the beginning. Would you like to help speed up downloads for other users? Click yes or no, or something like that.
Can you imagine?
They say, would you like to help improve Chrome when it installs? And I always turn it on. I say, yeah, why not? I don't mind. I got nothing to hide, and so, but they give me the option instead of forcing me to do it, which I like.
And that was the shame of it, is that I think it's a very interesting way to do it. I think that's a good way to leverage all the users that are out there, but they should have let people know that this was going on.
Well, then, honestly, I know that sometimes companies work this way, because I've talked to, software and hardware makers. Sometimes they say, we're going to do it this way. It takes effort and time to educate people. We know that the tech press is going to tell people all about this, and so we'll just let them do it, because they're going to do it fine. And the average ordinary person doesn't really give a rip. So,
right.
Well, that's fine. Antoine, you were trying to say something earlier, and your bandwidth just was killing what you were saying. So try again.
I can try. BitTorrent should not steal your bandwidth without you knowing. It's not supposed to.
No, I'm not talking about BitTorrent. I'm talking about Windows 10 updates. Is a BitTorrent?
Yeah, and same protocol. Extremely well. Microsoft actually did a decent job of encrypting it. Decent, not great, but it shouldn't steal bandwidth. It was supposed to, at least early on, the conversation about that feature was that it was going to give you the notification when you were sharing your update, if you will, or sharing a Microsoft update out. I don't know if that's something that's going to stick around, but you definitely shouldn't be getting stolen bandwidth from there. Now, folks will have an issue with their really puny upload speeds on their ISPs when this happens, but that's a whole different can of beans.
Well, yeah, but Anton, it is going to have a problem. If you're out in a coffee shop or something and there's 10 nodes in there that have this turned on by default, it's still going to impact the upload in that one network because there's so many people trying to upload at that bit. So say you're trying to do what we're doing here and having a hangout, and your audio and video goes through it.
I'm going through that right now, and the issue is our router more than it is the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally, the fun that I'm having right now.
Right.
I'll know a little bit more. I'm talking with a few ISPs, friends of ISPs who know about that stuff, and I'll know a little bit more about how that's going to be dealt with. But generally speaking,
ISPs are going to hate this.
Yeah, no. Well, BitTorrent is really network efficient compared to whole packet downloads. It's not whole packets. So if Microsoft is doing a similar implementation where it's not whole packet downloads, it probably won't be as bad. It will likely not be as bad. It'll take piss poor long, but I don't know if you guys remember download managers from back when CNET was actually a good website. But that's exactly what those download managers did. They would say, hey, we're going to give you a file and you're going to be downloading it from these 7 sites all at the same time, and we're going to put it together when it comes to your machine.
Right.
So it's not terribly inefficient. It makes the best of whatever connectivity that you have. We go from there. Right. I actually got to run away from the call. I just got my next meeting about to happen. I'll see you guys later on.
I think we beat that one. People understand how they feel about it. It's bad. Fix it. It could be good, but they messed up. So I think there's a bunch of other things that fall into this category of things that they could have done better.
I've got one on my screen right now.
What's that?
If you can see my screen here, the fact that settings are in 2 different places still, and this to me was a problem in 8.0 and 8.1, that you've got this settings that's on the right of my screen here, and then on the left you've got the old control panel, and you've got to figure out which one is in which. And so, for instance, they moved Windows updates from the control panel over to this settings, and I suppose that they're doing in the settings what is most used, but you're still going to have to try to figure out, well, where is the thing that I'm looking for? Which one is it?
Not in both places?
No, they're not.
That's just idiotic.
Yeah, well, and that's the way it was in 8.
Again, this is a holdover from Windows 7 and earlier, and then 8. They're trying to move in this other direction, but they're so worried about helping and supporting people in the legacy and so businesses. If you take away the control panel, we're going to quit. We're never going to upgrade, and I think it's that issue. And you're right. At the very least, if they would just put a link in that screen that says "Open the control panel," for further settings. But that's not enough. They need to put all this into one simple, easy to use place, and it's really a terrible mess. A couple of other little things about Windows 10 that I think are interesting. Maybe won't be all that big for our audience, but you can stream games from your Xbox. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And that I haven't tried it yet. I don't know if that's entirely fixed or ready to go. If you're looking for your music app and you're wondering what happened to it, it's now called Groove instead of Xbox Music. Which, hey, I'm going to groove instead of Xbox, so while I'm listening to music. And you should go ahead and get those. If you're on a computer with very limited limited storage, you should go ahead and get those mobile versions out of the Windows 10 store of Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, because they're pretty good. It's basically like having the Word online on your computer instead of having to go to a website and load it. It's just right there. Because essentially it's the same interface, isn't it, Rick?
As far as I know, yeah. I mean, I
That's
haven't
what it
looked
looks
at
like to me. So,
Is it full featured, or is it got the same feature set as like the iOS version and the web version?
it's like the mobile versions of iOS and Android and the online version, which are all fairly similar in features and look and everything. And so for probably 90% of Word and PowerPoint and Excel users, it's going to be all you need. You don't have to clog up your system with Access if you don't use it, or all this other stuff, because sadly if you download from Office 365, I haven't worked hard to figure it out, but I don't know if there's a way to customize what you install. It seems like it just dumps the whole thing on your computer for you.
You can't do a custom install anymore, really?
No,
I don't know. I haven't tried.
I've tried. You can't. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, and that's frustrating because I don't use Access or Outlook or
Publisher and.
Yeah, my wife uses Publisher. In fact, if that's all she had on her computer was Publisher and Word, she'd be happy.
But the big advantage of the mobile apps are if you're using a Windows tablet, or if you're using one, a 2-in-1 in tablet mode, the mobile versions are much more touch centric.
That's true. Yeah.
They should have had them come out when 8.0 came out. That should have been ready to go.
Yeah, that was bizarre that they didn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, also, Rick, if you don't mind, would you share your screen and give us a look at Microsoft Edge? I don't know if you've heard this much. This is their hopeful replacement for Internet Explorer. Internet Explorer is still in Windows 10. If you go into your all programs in that list on the left, it's still there under, I think, Windows Accessories or something.
Why?
It's still there.
Why?
Again, you're not the target for Internet Explorer in Windows 10. It's some corporation somewhere that's built their entire intranet around Internet Explorer, and they can't buy a new computer without it on there, and so it's there for them. But for the rest of us, they've hidden it away, and it's nearly dead, thankfully. But I actually really like Edge. I think if they had a plug-in support for LastPass, if that's all I could get was just LastPass, I'd use Edge on my tablets almost exclusively, because it's much leaner and faster than Chrome.
Do they have plug-in support at all?
What's that?
Not yet.
They don't have plug-in support at all, so like 1Password, LastPass, nothing's going to work with it right
Not
now?
yet.
Not yet, no, and that's...
Yeah, in fact, can you see? I've got Edge up here.
Yeah.
It's a very basic. Here, I'm just clicking on a random deal there that has to do with Edge.
The menu or the address bar at the top again. There's a concept for you.
Yeah, there it is. I mean,
it's very nice. You say it's very basic. It's actually deceptively powerful. There's a lot.
That's true.
The main thing is this section up in the upper right corner. As you look at it, if you click on these icons, you see some nice things that come up. There's the actions, which is like settings. If you go over one, that's you share stuff with friends and through social network and things. The web notes, those are cool.
I haven't tried those out yet.
Pen, you can basically create a
nice
OneNote from within your Edge Explorer.
And notice it goes purple for OneNote up here.
Mm-hmm.
So you can annotate a web article and then save it to OneNote.
Right, which would work better with a pen. I was using a mouse just then.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's actually pretty nice. I like it. And then, of course, then you have your place where they have favorites. And inside favorites, I don't see it in yours. Where's the reading mode and such?
Is this not the reading mode? The little book?
If you click on that, that'll turn it into reading mode. It's not.
Well, it doesn't have it for this page, evidently.
Or does it have it only in tablet mode?
Just go to.
I'm sorry, what?
It might have it only in tablet mode.
Surely they'd have reading mode here
no,
too.
It works.
Go ahead, try it.
Go to your website, Rick. Go to this
Okay.
one, and I bet it'll work on yours.
So here you see how behind I am. in doing post. So, well, it did not.
Switch to tablet mode. See if it comes up.
Okay. Whoops. Okay, I'm in tablet mode now, but I don't.
Nope.
I don't have that. If that's what the icon is, it's not.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. But click on your with the three lines, horizontal lines again, next to the favorite button up there in the right.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Just below that, then you'll see a bar. It has favorites. Then your reading list. That's the stuff that you've put in reading mode. All right. And then that one is your browsing history, and then your downloads history. And if you want to have that open all the time, you've got the little pin button on the side.
Nice.
And so it's actually got more to it than people would think of. And honestly, the minute that they allow me to install a LastPass plugin, then I will install Chrome only to use Google Hangouts with, and that's it.
Well, and this morning when we were setting up for the podcast, I had I had already switched over earlier this week to Edge as the default just to try it out, and of course the Hangouts wouldn't work with Edge because I would click on the invite that you sent and it would open up Edge, and there was just no way. It would try to install the plugin, and that just wouldn't work. And so then I had to figure out, because it's not clear how to switch your browsers, and of course that's done in the settings.
Yeah, well, Hangouts doesn't work with, if you're on Windows 8, it doesn't work with Internet Explorer either. So that's actually a Google thing, not a
that makes sense.
Microsoft thing. Now on Edge, it's a Microsoft thing because they don't let you do any kind of plugins. But I guarantee you, someone would make a plugin for Internet Explorer if Google would allow them to do Hangouts in Internet Explorer. They just don't allow it. So, but it's I guess what I would say at this point, we've got one other thing we wanted to cover, but to put a bow on this, I would say Windows 10 is a 1.0. It's a Windows 10 1.0 because they've even said that Windows 10 is the last version of Windows that you're ever going to download. Now, they don't mean that they're never going to update it. What they mean is sort of like OS 10. They always update OS 10, 10.1, 10.2. Now we're up to 10.11.
Well, maybe the question...
We're going to have 10.1 up to 10.32 in 10 years or whatever.
The question that goes with the bow, perhaps, is who should upgrade? Should everyone upgrade, or should only certain people upgrade? Kevin, what do you think?
If you're on Windows 8 and you hate it, go upgrade it today. And by the end of the weekend, I'll have an article on notebooks.com on how you can upgrade now. You don't have to wait for Microsoft to send you your data. If you've tried to reserve it, then not everybody who reserved it got it this week yet. Yes, there's still a lot of people waiting in line. But you can download the update tool from Microsoft, and
that's what I did.
If you want to do that over the weekend, I'll have an article up how to do that. So if you're on Windows 8 and you hate it, go upgrade as soon as possible because it's a very valid upgrade.
If you're on Windows 7 and you can barely use that, should you upgrade? Said if you're on Windows 7 and you can barely use that, should you upgrade?
Yeah, if you've got hardware that'll run it, which almost all hardware that runs 7 will run 10.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think everybody should. The only reason you shouldn't is if you're perfectly happy and you're scared to update, then don't. But I think, almost everything's going to work. Almost everything, in my opinion, works better. There's very little reason not to. The biggest complaints I have about Windows 10, I have about Windows 8 and Windows 7 and Windows,
But folks should certainly do a backup first.
Obviously.
And Windows 10 will let you roll back for 30 days. It keeps files on the hard drive for Windows 8.1. Now I removed them. I'm all in, I guess. I removed them just to retrieve that storage space, and there's a utility in the settings that makes that very easy to do. But word of warning, we had an Accordance customer post on the forums that Microsoft Windows 8.1 said, in the little upgrade thing that they've been doing, that his system was completely compatible, and after he updated it, his Wi-Fi would not connect at all. And so he got online and he looked, and whatever brand that was of the Wi-Fi component that was on the motherboard, Windows 10 is having problems with that, and so he had to go back. But Windows 8.1 had told him that his machine was 100% compatible. So make sure you back up, make sure that you've got that option to roll back, and which you should have by default. So.
The other question I had, Kevin, is they're making a big deal about not needing, malware and virus protection because now Windows has it completely built in. I mean, is this a real thing? Are you guys still going to be running your malware scanners and things like that?
I just use Windows Defender. I don't.
Me too. That's all I've run since whenever they released that. That might have been during Windows 7.
Okay.
And as far as I know, I don't have any problems. So.
Well, I know there's some of the Microsoft security professionals. They had a call on LinkedIn this week, and a lot of them were saying that they're trying to encourage the prosumer-consumer mindset to be better about putting firewalls on their routers and on their machines rather than just simply relying on the antivirus virus scanner methodology we've been taught to for over the years. That's usually getting those 2 points as your stoppage points tends to be a better route of protecting your computers with the type of malware that's been out there lately. So.
Okay.
Well, we had one other thing that we kind of wanted to cover just real briefly here at the end, and you may have heard that there's a bug in Android called stage fright, and that's kind of an interesting name for it, and it really comes from the feature in Android. That's the people who made the exploit or whatever who discovered it didn't name it. That comes from the feature name. But do any of you guys know what stage fright is well enough to explain that?
Antoine, you probably are the best to give on this one.
Sure. Basically, it's an exploit. It's every system that processes some type of script on a computer has holes inside of that script, and that's what scripts really program around. In regards to stage fright, there is basically a hole in the viewer and in the header for text messages on most Android devices. And it was existing on Apple devices until fairly recently as well. That's why you haven't heard as much. But essentially, you get a text message that can have an embedded picture or at least an embedded script inside of the header, and basically the entire device is compromised, and there is absolutely no way for the user to prevent their device being compromised once this message hits their device, because it's in the processing of the message. It's when you get a notification of that text message is when that script is actually being run. So it's not something where you don't open the text message or the multimedia message and it doesn't come up. It's just as soon as you receive it, you're compromised. And so that's it's a pretty major one. According to some folks, Google has already shipped out an update, at least for the later versions, Jelly Bean, Lollipop operating systems. And anything before that or anything more than that, anything earlier than that, if they haven't already patched it, Google has already said that they're not patching it. Any patches that have been sent out, carriers have not pushed out, and everybody who knows about this is fairly angry.
Well, I think that it just highlights the problem that we have with the Android updating setting. I will say one thing. Unless the article I read was wrong, there is a way to prevent it beforehand. If you have not yet received one of these messages, if you go into your messaging client and find the setting for turning off automatic opening of multimedia message content. For example, I've got a Samsung Galaxy S6, and a lot of the Samsung phones, which amounts to the majority of Android, it seems like these days. But if you go into your messaging app and click on More at the top, and then Settings, then you have to find More Settings, and then Multimedia Messages. There's a setting in there for auto retrieve. Put that up there. It probably won't look very good.
And you can turn it off.
Well,
Yeah.
that's for multimedia messages. That specific hole, that's been patched a long time ago. And actually, that's a user. For our friends who are not in the United States and who don't get multimedia messages fairly often, it's not something that you necessarily run into. Many carriers turn off the ability to receive multimedia messages instantly. You have to click again to receive the content of a multimedia message. Here in the U.S., all of our carriers enable that by default, that you can get the picture immediately. User experience flaw that causes really bad piracy. But this stage fright.
That's what the bug is. That's what we're talking about. Multimedia.
No. Stage fright is worse than that. Stage fright is on just the receipt of the message. It's actually it's literally as you get the message. It's a
So
very
just a simple
bad
text message to include this?
Yeah, you can do it through a text message. It has nothing to do with media content. It literally has to do with the scripting inside of the text messaging engine itself. It's a bad bug, and it's a bad bug. It's something that it's kind of get on the phone with your senator and tell them to stop taking lobbyist money and fix my dang phone kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anton, when you say compromised, like, what do you mean?
For every signal that you receive on your phone, you're also putting out information.
Mm-hmm.
So once you receive for this particular issue, it basically opens a wide open hole, opens the front door, and opens the windows to everything you're doing on your phone.
Nice.
I mean, just your garden variety. Hey, guess what I'm doing on my phone today kind of stuff.
You sure the NSA didn't create this?
I am
No, unfortunately,
not
Google
saying that on the air.
Unfortunately, Google created it. It's
right.
Google's fault. It's their mistake in their coding. But
well, they've corrected it too.
I'm gonna side with Google and say that it's not their mistake per se. It's a coding error, yes. I won't say that it's not. But these type of coding errors happen in every application, and that's why Google pays buku amounts of money for people to figure out where the holes are in their system. So,
but now here's the issue. People might be wondering, why doesn't Google patch it? Google very well may have patched it the day that they discovered it or the week that they discovered it. But the way things work on the Google side of things, the Android side of things is, first of all, Google doesn't make a single phone. Even the Nexus isn't made by Google, even though it's a Google-branded phone. And so they have to send it to the manufacturers. They send it to Samsung or HTC or LG or whoever is the manufacturer of their phone. And then once Samsung says, we have to make certain that this works with all the garbage that we put on top of Android. And garbage is so great. And so they've got to make it work with their phone, and so it takes them, weeks or months or years sometimes to fix it. And then they call AT&T up and say, AT&T, we've got a patch for you. And AT&T says, oh, it might mess up our networks. We don't want to do that. Wink, wink. We'd rather people just buy a new phone. And so the whole update process of the operating system on Android is totally broken. It's an absolute disaster and a nightmare. And here's the perfect example of that. How long did Lollipop come out? It came out late last year, and still the majority of Android users cannot run Lollipop unless they jailbreak their phone.
Unfortunately, Kevin, I mean, this is partially an upgrade issue, and like you described here. But the problem with stage fright, it's not just an operating system issue. It's also a cellular radio issue. So you have to tell the cellular radio, when you receive X command from X tower, don't process X message on these machines. And that kind of integration, it's not something that Google can just say, we patched it and call it a day. That has to go through its respective checks. It has to go through the carrier. It has to go through, in some cases, the Qualcomm or MediaTek, whichever one is doing the cellular radios there, and it has to go through, the vendor. MediaTek is pretty mean, and Qualcomm is relatively a gangster when it comes to, hey, you have a security fix and you're an OEM, pay us for you to put the patch on our machine. So, yes, Google can say we have a patch in order and we fixed it, but Google's patch does have to go through several layers. Is that a problem? Sure it is, because you have, for every Android device out there, screw the processor ideas, you have hundreds of variants of cellular radios. So it does have to go through testing. You can't just pitch it out to the, 2 or 3 cellular radios that are out there and hope that it gets there. It's unfortunately, this is one of those issues where it is a lot harder to solve because of the amount, not just of Android devices, but the amount of technologies that are in respective Android devices.
So it's kind of the same problem that you have in a Microsoft ecosystem, where you can put anything in there and every computer is completely unique. And so you have to make sure that the bugs,
no, it's not. It's not the same.
It's similar.
The reason no. Is that when Microsoft has a bug and they want to fix it, they put out the bug, and you can download it in Microsoft Update without having to talk to ThinkPad, to Lenovo, or to HP. This right here doesn't have the problem anymore. Has to do all the same things that you just talked about. This has the problem.
Yeah. Well, it's not just if Apple had this issue, they don't have as many issues to run through. They only use one radio supplier globally, thankfully. They only use one cellular radio provider, one Wi-Fi radio provider. They don't
my answer to all of that, Antoine, is I don't care. And Android.
I mean, I get you, and don't get me wrong, I get you, and I hate not getting updates as well as the next person. There are some updates that that our tech press can say, yes, we all should have gotten Lollipop, or we all should be on 5.1.1. Some of that makes a lot of sense. There are other parts of it that you have to understand. The reality of the industry is that there are way more moving parts in a mobile phone than there ever will be inside of a computer. And so for that reason, you have to you have to understand the entirety of the picture, before we just go ahead and level blame that somebody's not doing their part. There is a possible change in that rule, and the FCC's been sitting on it, but like I said, you need to talk to your senator to stop taking lobbyist money and start talking to you.
Well, I thought that I had a fix for it. I guess if Antoine's correct, I don't. I would still go in and turn that off, just in case.
Oh yeah, definitely turn it off. Definitely, yeah, I agree with you there. Definitely turn it off. We're not gonna solve this problem, especially since we're kind of out of time now. We've kind of gone up to an hour and over it. But I think this is a good discussion. Hopefully, we help some people make a decision about whether to upgrade to Windows 10 and how to possibly help alleviate a little bit of this stage fright mess. A lot of people get stage fright of other kinds, but maybe this is one that you won't get if you have an Android phone. But I think that this is a good place to end it. Thank you for watching. We always appreciate all of you, and we hope that you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can get these updates after they're recorded if you don't watch it live. You can also subscribe on iTunes or in your favorite podcast app, thanks to Stitcher Radio. And we do that usually sometime Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the next week. I've lately been a little bit better about getting that audio version out. So go over to kevinpurcell.org or theotek.com, and you'll find out all the ways to listen and watch and enjoy. For now, check out my three friends here on their various places. Where do you want people to come and find you, Wes?
Painfullyhopeful.me, where I am blogging every day.
Cool. Rick?
Thislamp.com is fine.
All right. And Antoine?
MobileMinistryMagazine.com is also fine.
Great. Thanks, guys, and we are out.